Yep. Just, yep. So, um, I don't know if I did it right. I tried to set up this across the multiple channels like we usually do. It's Mr. Know-It-All's job most of the time. And, yeah, obviously he couldn't be here tonight. So you got, yeah. And not, no, don't get me wrong. I am not, just to make it clear. I'm not angry with Mr. Know-It-All or anything like that. He had legitimate reasons why he couldn't be here the last couple of shows and tonight and this coming Saturday. So we're going to be going for 2 weeks without a Nerd Fight show proper. But he said we'll do a really long show next week, which at that point we're going to have, I mean, we could do a 2.5 hour show just covering the skeleton crew stuff. Not to mention, by that point, we'll have 3 episodes of Dune and 2 episodes of Lower Decks. And so it's, I mean, I don't know. Was he planning on doing a 12-hour show? I don't know, but anyway, I do wish him well. He's got some stuff that he has to. He's doing involving his family. Don't worry, it's nothing like I know I called the show. What happens when Know-It-All gets struck by lightning. Nothing tragic has happened or anything like that. Mr. Know-It-All hasn't been struck by lightning. Not that I know of, anyway. I can always hope. Anyway, so I figured we'd just hang out for a little while. See what happens. See if any of you guys want have any comments on. I'll give you my opinions on any of the shows if you ask. But me and Mr. Know-It-All will talk about it together next week, I hope. Because I know that there are some things we agree on, there are some things we probably won't, but I'm curious to see where we line up on certain things. But anyway, yeah. So how are you guys doing? Hope well. Hope everybody is doing great and stuff. Yeah. Anybody got anything for me, or should I just end the show now? I mean, I could just wrap it up. By the way, Mike Richards is here. Best thing to come out of Columbus, Ohio, is absolutely Mike Richards with his standard greeting of Ginkelfarb, which I think we need to, find out what that word actually means, because it has me concerned that I'm saying some kind of propaganda. Let's see. So if I look up Ginkelfarb on Google, Google comes back with, it looks like there aren't many great matches for your search. Funny, it says many, but I don't see any. There is one that's close, is Ginkgo Far, awarded the Ginkgo Far awarded the Consumer Quality Leader title. Okay? And Ginfort, whatever that is. So, Ginkgo Farb doesn't seem to bring anything up. So, Ginkle, wow, brings up, you know, I don't know who spends their time writing stuff that ends up on Urban Dictionary, but if any of you are watching this stream right now, you guys need to get therapy. Because that is some messed up stuff. Let's see. But okay, so uh, yeah, that doesn't even make sense. So I guess, but I'll use this alternate because I guess there's two definitions for ginkle. One, I will absolutely not be reading, and let's just say, so if you're looking on uh, the on Urban Dictionary, it's the one that involves an egg. But the one that I will read is it is a slur. A ginkle is a heterosexual person, especially one who's in your face about it. So I've never
We
met.
can generate content based on sexually suggestive topics.
What? I didn't ask you to generate content on sexually suggestive topics. You need to stop listening, my phone. So Ginkle is a heterosexual man who is all up in your face about it. And Farb, let's see if Farb has a meaning, is the Federation of Associations of Regulatory Boards. Oh, well, now it all makes sense. So Ginkelfarb is simply the Federation of Associations of Regulatory Boards staffed by a bunch of in-your-face heterosexuals. Now that makes sense. So thank you, Mike Richards. You have officially come up with a brand new term for a group. I'm surprised it doesn't specifically say Caucasian heterosexuals, but we know that the Federation of Associations of Regulatory Boards is a group of heterosexual men that are all up in your face about it, thanks to you. And Mike says it's an ancient Martian greeting. No, we know what it means now. Darren Wagner says, when a know-it-all gets hit by lightning, becomes Captain Know-it-all. You know, that actually tracks. And hey, how you doing? Person whose name I can never pronounce right, so I'll just say person whose avatar is an eagle. Says, oh, hey, what happens when a know-it-all gets struck by lightning? I'm wondering what the answer is. Is this Paul? Lordy. And Darren says, what in Thunder Nation are you blathering about now? Well, whatever you guys want to blather about, actually, Darren. Do you have anything in particular you'd like to discuss? You know, I'm just, unfortunately, Mr. Know-it-all couldn't be here tonight, so we're just, opening it up for whatever topics you guys want to talk about. Maybe if you guys are very, very nice, I might let one or two of you on later, if I have the energy. Bradley says they're always listening. Oh, the Federation of Associations of Regulatory Boards, they're always listening to us? You know, you mean the phones? Yeah. That was so weird, because it's not like I said, hold this way. Okay, Google, or hey, Google, or something like that before I said that.
Sorry, I can't help with that. You can control smart home devices from Google Home app or Assistant devices.
Shut up! So Darren says, so the life of the party isn't here. Bah. Well, so sorry to disappoint you, Darren. Thomas Potts says, yesterday was 58, today it snowed. You know, funny you should say that. Last night, I was driving some Uber time, and it was snowing here in Middle Tennessee in the middle of the night. And it snowed just a few days ago, too, which is very unusual. We typically don't get snow until like late January or into February, if we get snow at all. So, has people around here hoping we may actually see a white Christmas, which would be cool. Bradley is, laughing with tears, probably because the phone is listening. That's really some creepy stuff. It's negative 11 degrees Fahrenheit here right now. I love it. Well, of course you love it. You're a Bigfoot. You got all that fur. Salty's phone has gained consciousness. Yes, that is true. And by the way, Darren, since I know you're just like sitting there probably naked in a tub full of money right now, I will tell you, I'm absolutely trying to do this, but if you want to help expedite things, you could. Is that because it's going to cost me like $500, which is $500 I do not have right now. And that is, many of you have seen the image that Darren, I don't think Darren created it, but somebody created it and gave it to Darren. And he has used several times to attempt to mock me, which, and hoping that I guess it would like make me cry and run away or something, but it's never really worked. And let's see if I can go to layers. Oh, I guess we need to add a new scene. New scene name. Test. Create. There. Add me to this scene now. And the reason I had to create a new scene is because the dynamic scene, which is what I was in a minute ago, I can't import files to. So let's go to add new layer, media files, and upload new, and select. All right. There, so this little guy here. So this is, we'll put that right here for now. There. So, this thing here, I'm assuming you can see it, is this lovely photoshopped image of my face along with the salt vampire from Star Trek: The Original Series. And so, like I said, this is going to cost me $500, but I don't have $500 to spend. I was looking to hire a professional 3D modeler that does characters in higher resolution to create a 3D model of this character so that I could 3D print it. So, yeah. Thomas says, got a text message from PA Turnpike saying, I owe $35 in unpaid tolls. I don't own a car. Wow. Sounds to me like, there's a troll living under the bridges there that has your name. A troll, speaking of which, is Darren Wagner, says, tonight on Exposed, Salty shouts at his mobile devices passionately. Well, you came here for the intense, thoughtful discussion on various nerd pop culture topics, but you stayed for the arguments that I have with my own phone. Shut up, phone. I can't do that, Dave. I mean, Salty. Yes. Oh, you mean that image of the salt vampire from TOS? That's a direct image from my Blu-ray. It hasn't been remodified in any way. Yeah, whatever. CDJ saying, Salty, long time no see, how are you? I am doing much better thanks to this little guy right here. For those of you that haven't seen this before, this is the device that actually controls my cybernetic implant, which I actually, by the way, I'll show you in a minute. I actually have a picture of my cybernetic implant now. If I open up this device, notice it says searching for communicator, and because it has to be relatively close to the implant itself, in order to actually work. And so that way it's very difficult to hack the device. The transmission range is only a few feet. But here, so now that we're in here, you can see like in the battery status, the neurostimulator, which is what's in my spine, is current battery life is at 60%. And the communicator, which is this device here, the white one, is at 100%, which means that not only do I have a neurostimulator, but I have a communicator, both Star Trek terms. So suck on that. And then the other thing, so when I was at the doctor's the other day doing a follow-up from the surgery, I was able to get this little jewel. Give me just a second here. If I can remember, there it is. All right. So it might be kind of hard to see, but this is an X-ray of my spine, and those little black dots that you see going up the spine are actually electrodes implanted in my spine, in the actual center of the spine, wrapped around my spinal cord. And then below the lowest set of dots, you can see two leads coming off of them. Those are wires that then come out of my spinal cord and connect to a device just like this one. This one is not the one that's actually in me, obviously, but this is just the same type of device. Unfortunately, they didn't have an X-ray handy of the device, or I would have shown that to you as well. But yeah, so there's the actual device, in case anybody was wondering. Deck Crash, speaking of people who I haven't seen in forever, good to see you, Deck Crash. Says, hey, Michael, been a while. Have you heard of what happened with the self-proclaimed Bible scholar named Billy Carson? How he got exposed as a fraud and went on a self-incriminating rant after. No, I've never heard of Billy Carson, so I can't say that I've heard of that one. Darren says, I think you should do that. Make that the mascot avatar of your channel. Way better than soft serve ice cream with your face on it, or that paladin avatar thing. Well, you know, I was actually thinking about that, Darren, but, you know, first I want to be able to get a 3D print of it so that I can, like, put it on the shelf behind me. So, yeah. Thomas says, Deej has an implant, but it measures blood sugar. Yeah. Does he have an insulin pump, or is it just a blood sugar measuring device? Now, you're halfway to being a Borg drone, my guy. Yes, indeed. So, in fact, that's like, I was going to, one of these days I'm going to look it up and actually get the quote. But Chakotay had, let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Bear with me. Okay, so now let's find the word. Yes. So this is Chakotay, in my favorite episode of Voyager, actually, Scorpion, I was linked to a collective once, remember? I had a neurotransceiver embedded in my spine. I know who we're dealing with. So, yeah, Chakotay, I feel you, brother. Mike Richards says, if we hack Salty's device, can we make him dance like a chicken? Possibly yes, because sometimes if the power of the device goes too high, because sometimes when you move around, since your spine is not obviously perfectly rigid, sometimes if you flex one way or the other a little bit, then the electrodes that you see in the X-ray shift slightly, and so will send a jolt of electricity where you weren't expecting it. And so, yes, if you could hack the device and control it with enough precision, you probably could make me dance. Maybe not exactly like a chicken, like I wouldn't be flapping my arms or anything, but definitely jerking around. And actually, I have to say, so this has worked wonders as far as helping to relieve some of the pain in my legs and feet. And so I was talking to the representative from Medtronic, the company that manufactures the neurostimulators, and she said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, really, my only complaint is that I can't get one for the upper body as well. She goes, oh, actually, we make those. So if the lower body one continues to work after a little while, we'll talk about getting a second one put in. They put that one in my neck, and so that it would cover like my shoulders, arms, and torso. So that would be really, really cool if I could actually live relatively pain-free. Would certainly lift my spirits, even if I wouldn't be able to physically do as much as a able-bodied person. CD says, I have an implant in my left, it's a vagal nerve in my neck for epilepsy. The unit controls, unit and battery are in my chest. Yeah, and in fact, so Medtronic, the company that makes the neurostimulator that I have, there's several companies that make these types of devices. Medtronic just happens to be the one that my doctor went with. Like Boston Labs is another one, and I can't remember what the... excuse me, there's like 3 or 4 of them. But they do also make cranial stimulators for people with epilepsy. So she told me about that device as well. Darren says, Salty's implant is probably like Garrick's from Deep Space Nine. It probably gives him orgasms at the press of a button. That would be very distracting because I just you hit that button, the happy button. It's in his shoulder and the device shows the number. Oh, okay, that's cool. Where does Mr. Know-It-All live where he gets hit by lightning at this time of year? Well, he didn't actually get hit by lightning. Actually, the funny thing is, I'm really disappointed in you guys. 18 people here and nobody got it. That was just a play on the stupid line that Storm gives in the first X-Men movie about a toad. But Mr. Know-It-All actually lives south of me. So, Kermit Frog, hey, man, today is the day for people that I have not talked to in ages. Good to see you, Kermit. Says, I feel pain. I've been working for Toys for Tots the last few weeks, and it tires me out, but I'm there for most of the day. Very good. Well, you know what? I'm glad you're doing it, buddy. You know, if you are able to help out in some way, that is freaking awesome. And Toys for Tots is a wonderful organization. And you're tired, and I'm there most of the day or most of the afternoon. Hey, dude, whatever you can put in, because I mean, I know that, you know, you obviously you ain't gonna go out digging ditches anytime soon. So no, I'm proud of you, buddy. Halle Berry totally botched that line, by the way. Joss Whedon wrote it funny, and she said it seriously. Well, I don't know how it was supposed to be said, but I can't see how that line would be particularly good even if she delivered it better. I mean, I don't. Honestly, I mean, and I know you may disagree with me about this, Darren, but I don't. I think almost all of the X-Men movies suck raw eggs. In fact, my favorite X-Men movies are the Deadpool movies. And I think that even though I wish that, I mean, and unfortunately, it's just, so you know, the way that it is, Deadpool is naturally kind of an R-rated character. And with Deadpool and Wolverine, I totally support it being an R-rated film. But it would be nice to see X-Men content done at the level that we see, especially in the first Deadpool with their take on Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead and stuff, that feels more like the comic books. And I'm hoping that that's more like the X-Men that we get in the MCU after they're done with this multiverse saga, which apparently is winding down. Deckrash says, seems, and I remember, sorry, I always remember when you would, and I don't know if, because I haven't been with the old gang in a long time, Deck Crash, so I don't know if you still do this or not, but I remember you used to always start your videos with, hey everybody, it's Deck Crash, better known as Brandon. And it's like, but your name is Deck Crash. Your screen name is Deck Crash. You're not better known as Brandon, you're better known as Deck Crash. So you could say, this is Brandon, better known as Deck Crash, but I always loved the fact that you said that like that. I don't know why. Anyway, seems like the thing about the know-it-all is just a variation on the saying how everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, that is true. And unfortunately, with Mr. Know-It-All, he had a couple of things come up. Some planned, some not. And so part of it is, you know, because it's the holiday season, you know, family gatherings, stuff like that. Other things are problems that have come up unexpectedly that he's had to deal with directly. And so we are definitely doing at least one show next week where we're going to try to catch up all this stuff. I do know that we're planning on taking a little break over the Christmas to New Year's holiday because he's going to be out of town visiting family. And then we'll be back to regular business in January. Kermit says, today I was making labels for other people who bag the stuff. Very cool. Darren says, the X-Men films were subpar compared to Avengers up until the end of Infinity War, in my view. I would definitely agree with you on at least most of that sentiment. I think that the Avengers movies were superior to the X-Men films, even post-Infinity War, on balance. I think that there were some exceptions, but not honestly a lot of them. Kermit says, they had the news there near the end of the shift one day, and they showed a box we had emptied and said that we need toys. They had the news crew, I see, was there where you were working. In the end of, one day, and they showed a box we had emptied and said that we need toys. We don't, we have too many. That made me so mad. Well, you know, honestly, that's kind of puzzling because you'd think that, depending on where you're at and the attitude of the news crew, it would be more inspiring to show a full bin full of toys saying, isn't it great to see how much the community has pulled together? But I get that they also don't want people to think, well, I guess I don't have to give then. But if you guys have too many toys, then they could say, hey, you know what? They've got lots of toys, but they could sure use some more volunteers or something, you know, that. I don't know why, why they would do that. Thomas says, I didn't smite Mr. Know-It-All. I don't know, Thomas. I don't know. He has said some things that you've been pretty irritated with about Star Wars. Let's see. The big news so far this week is Chris Evans coming back to Marvel as Captain Hydra. Did they actually say it was going to be Captain Hydra? I heard that Chris Evans was coming back. I haven't heard anything other than that. And so I'm assuming, since it's coming during the multiversal stuff, that he's going to be some kind of Steve Rogers variant. But yeah, if it's Captain Hydra, that'll be interesting. I haven't done videos in a while, but I was planning to start up again. I plan on doing video book reviews exclusively. By the way, David Hayter did the screenplay for the first X-Men movie, not Joss Whedon. And Darren says, the big mistake Fox made with X-Men was not starting with the original 5 and eventually getting to Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and subsequent films. I think that was definitely a big mistake. They should have started with the original X-Men. And then the funny thing is, though, Darren, is that even then, they had a chance to rectify that when they did X-Men First Class, and they didn't even fix it then. You know, that blows my mind, is that when we first heard they were going to do an X-Men prequel called X-Men First Class, I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to finally see the original 5 X-Men. And they even did uniforms that looked very reminiscent of the classic X-Men uniforms, which I was totally down with. But, you know, then but it made no sense, because, like, in the first X-Men movie, Professor X points out in dialogue how Jean and Scott were 2 of his very first students, and Jean and Scott were nowhere to be seen in X-Men First Class. They didn't show up until the second one, right? I believe. Or was it even the third one? No, I think it was Days of Future Past. Yeah, Days of Future Past when they showed up. Which is just stupid. Kermit says, get your point, but I was still mad. Darren says, my prediction is they're going to have the new totally diverse, sucky Avengers fight and defeat an evil team of Avengers, an evil team of the original MCU Avengers, because the new Avengers are just so much better. Wow. Way to pour on the cynicism there, Darren. Because, yeah, I don't think that that's honestly what they're going to do. Because I think that the Fantastic Four are going to be a big part of it. They're not part of the totally diverse, sucky Avengers. And by the way, not all the new Avengers are sucky. I mean, I don't know. I get that some people get worked up over diversity, but I don't. I'm more concerned with, is the story any good, than the DEI quotient. However, it is annoying that Hollywood is terrified now of having a heterosexual white male in a leading role anymore. But I do, you know, and the funny thing is that, well, if you complain about it, then they say, oh, you just don't like women, or you just don't like, you know, whatever group and all that. But the funny thing is, but then they can complain that there's not enough women. And if they say there's not enough women, well, I don't say you just don't like men. So I never understood why someone never calls them out on that. My brother and his wife are probably going to have their kid before Christmas. I'm excited I get to stay there until the end of the year. Very cool. Darren says, I think the biggest continuity issue I saw with the X-Men films is how the president had a hotline to the X-Mansion back in the 60s. I don't know. I think the biggest continuity issue is the fact that apparently, you know, in the first X-Men film, you know, Professor X is like 130 years old, and, you know, Scott is like, you know, 80, or, you know, I'm exaggerating, of course, but, you know, that they tried to do this whole thing where the team has been around for decades and decades, but apparently doesn't age. Diversity isn't the problem. Forced diversity is. I don't even think forced diversity is the problem. When I think the problem is when the messaging of the movie interferes with the story and messaging wins out. I don't care about diversity. I don't even care about forced diversity. You know, if you want to do, and for example, you want to do an all-female Ghostbusters film, fine, knock yourself out. But if you make an all-female Ghostbusters film where the only selling point is that it's all women and the movie itself sucks, well, there's the problem. You should have written a good story, and then if that story happens to revolve around 4 women instead of 4 men, great. But you didn't. You just wanted to do a gender swap and call it a day. And like, yeah, the rest of it will take care of itself, I suppose. The Traveler says, greetings, how you doing? Hope you are well. Kermit says, I won't stay at their house until the new year, but I will be in Florida until the new year in about a week or so. Very cool. CDJ says, superheroes aren't my thing. I'm still into Path of Exile and playing that like mass on my PS5. Well, I will tell you, CD, Mad. I will tell you, CD. So I'm in the early access group for PoE 2, and I haven't had a lot of time, but I put in a few hours in PoE 2. You are going to no longer give a crap about Path of Exile once you have access to PoE 2. And the nice thing is that if you made any microtransaction purchases in Path of Exile, all that transfers over to PoE 2. And even though they're not all available right now in the early access stuff, all the character types from Path of Exile are going to transfer over as well, but they're also effectively about doubling the number of character classes. And the skill tree has been completely revamped. And I actually like the new system better, but still getting used to it. Darren says, when I was a kid, Storm led the X-Men and Monica Rambeau led the Avengers, and nobody cared. Those leadership roles made sense given the stories told, not so much with these new screen characters. Well, I agree but where I'm saying, Darren, is that complaining about forced diversity, complaining about diversity at all, complaining about even the messaging of the film, is going to automatically make it so that whoever you're talking to, assuming that they disagree with you, is going to cross their arms, say, you just hate whatever group you're complaining about, and end the conversation. And then, and of course, if you're talking about like the people from the studios, they're going to say, well, these are just these radical right-wing nut jobs that just, you know, are a bunch of racists or homophobes or whatever. And so you basically give them the opportunity to dismiss you out of hand when that's what you complain about. And so that's why I try very hard to not complain about that at all. Instead, like, for example, when I talk about Star Trek Discovery, I don't complain about the fact that the show is clearly anti-white male. I don't complain about the fact that the vast majority, you know, well, I think almost the entire cast except for Doug Jones, who's a weird alien, is, you know, they avoid white men except for the gay dude, you know. So I don't talk about that. Instead, I talk about the poorly written stories, the fact that the show is centered around a single character instead of an ensemble. Like, we went through the entire first season of Discovery without even knowing the names of most of the characters on the show. And, you know, the sad thing is that the writers just couldn't help themselves because they know how some of these roles kind of naturally gravitate towards strong masculine roles. And so that's one of the reasons that Lorca was such a standout character in the first half of season 1, and why Pike was such a standout character in season 2. and because, these types of leadership roles, it feels more natural for it to be a strong masculine character in that leadership. However, if you say that as a part of your critique or a part of your argumentation, then you are immediately labeled as a misogynist, bigot, homophobe, and they're not interested in anything you have to say. And so if you want to actually carry forward a conversation, then you need to get beyond the superficial, quite literally. Force diversity equals the message taking priority. Throwing a little critical drinker lingo in there. Well, you could, forced diversity, when I hear those two words put together, is just basically inserting lots and lots of diverse characters into a story that doesn't necessarily call for it. And so if you want to say forced diversity equals the message taking priority, well, that's not what people think it means. And so you should be, and Darren, you of all people, you are the most articulate person I know. And so you of all people could come up with something that is a little more easy to understand for your average person than saying forced diversity. Oh, well, let me unpack that for you because most people don't understand what you mean. Deck Crash says, sorry to pop in and pop out, but I got to go. Good talking to you again. Hey, Deck Crash, always a pleasure. You're always welcome here. Take it easy, buddy. Kermit's going to be in the house with a newborn. I feel bad for the soon-to-be mother. Wow. Well, at least he's got all that money that his, brother stole from Disney or something. It depends on how they do the diversity. There's a lot of shows and movies that have women leads, and some of them are good, some of them are not. Well, sure. But, to me, and this is what I tried to, and maybe people just don't understand it. Because a lot of people have given this lip service over the years, but very few people actually mean it. And that is, I do not give a crap about whether or not the lead character is male or female. I do not give a crap about whether the lead character is black, white, Asian, Latino. It does not matter, right? What I care about is it an interesting story? Are they interesting characters? Is it entertaining? So that's where I choose to focus, not on whether or not it meets, because all people, the problem is that the people formerly known as the fundamentalists, I don't know if they still call themselves that or not, but the people that complain about this, the real loudmouths about it, people like Nerdrotic, Doomcock, Critical Drinker, Babyface, Midnight's Edge, all these types of groups out there that are extremely loud and obnoxious about this stuff. The reason that they're written off is because that's what, they keep shoving in your face that, oh, look at the diversity here. Oh, look at, they're just pushing the message. How about you talk about what's actually good or bad about the show? And by the way, and stop throwing insulting remarks at I'm so sick of people, throwing shade at actors and actresses because of something they did at something completely unrelated when talking about the movie. Yes, I get it. Brie Larson has said some stupid things at various, fundraisers or conferences or whatever. I don't care. I don't go to those conferences to watch Brie Larson give a speech, about some movie that she had nothing to do with. And I don't give a crap what she thinks about it. Just like I don't give a crap about who George Clooney thinks I should vote for. I really could not care less. What I care about is, what do I see on screen when I go to see Captain Marvel or King Kong or whatever movie she happens to be in. And the funny thing is, Brie is not that bad an actress, But, you know, man, you would think she was the worst actress ever to come out of Hollywood because she said some, some remarks that hurt the tender feelings of, straight white men, I guess. And I don't give a crap about that. I really don't. You know, put on your big boy pants and judge the movie for what it is. Thomas says, "Hello, Wesley. I see you were afraid to join the Horde night last week." Okay. The Rocinante says, "No wonder I couldn't find you. I've been looking for Anti-Trekker for a while." I'm sorry. Yes, if you were subscribed to the Anti-Trekker channel, it now shows up as exposed. Of course, for a while it was Salty Trekker, and now it's exposed. But, yep, I'm still alive. And by the way, there are 3 channels that I'm a part of, and so just so you have this in your information, is that there is the exposed channel, in which I talk about mostly religion and politics. The Nerd Fights channel, which I believe, I always get it wrong, but I think it's something like at Nerds Fighting or something. Because, unfortunately, you know how YouTube is. There's always somebody that took the name that you want, even though they're not using the channel. So there's like someone else that has at Nerd Fights, but they're not using it, which is really, really annoying. Let's see if I can. Let's see. It's at Nerds Fighting. Is that it? No, let's see. That's not it. At Nerd. There we go. It's at Nerd Fighting. Is the Nerd Fights channel. So you definitely want, and that one is where me and Mr. Know-It-All co-host 2 live streams a week normally, but he has been unable to attend the last couple of streams, and this one makes 3. And so that one is the one we're kind of in the process of just getting launched now. The next one that is also in the process of being set up is the Salty Plus channel. It's Salty followed by the plus symbol, but I'm trying to remember how let's see, is it Salty? If you search for, so it's at Salty Plus, one word, but PLUS has to be spelled out because you can't use the plus symbol in their little short links. So subscribe to those 2 channels. And on this at Salty Plus channel, I'm going to be starting some new content in the very near future, but I'll be focusing more on 3D printing and stuff, but also probably a little bit of nerdy stuff. But the Nerd Fights channel is where I'm going to put most of my nerdy content. Thomas says, "Did you get the beach sword yet?" As far as I know, in Path of Exile 2, there is no beach sword, at least not that I know of. Mike Richards says, "I saw Ghostbusters 2016 when I was in the heart hospital. It almost killed me." Yeah, it was a bad movie. I mean, and the thing is that but it wasn't a bad movie because it starred 4 women. That's my only point. No, Thomas, I forgot, and Cinnabon didn't remind me. Well, Cinnabon's just a jerk. Russell, is Bird of Prey 5 still around? No, Bird of Prey 5 sadly passed away. And so, and no joke, he did pass away, a couple months ago now. And very difficult time for me and all of his subscribers. But yeah, sadly, the evil one from Kuroga is no longer with us. Let's see. I, a little disappointed, missed it. Okay. Oh, so it's a Cinnabon thing, I guess. Kermit says, no, I'm not. I'm going to be in the area to see other family for the holidays to the Traveler. Let's see. Darren says, I still recommend Baldur's Gate 3, which means, of course, you won't try it. On second thought, stay the bleep away from Baldur's Gate 3. You're not man enough for that game. Yeah, you're probably right. I'm probably not. Kermit says, yeah, talking about Bird of Prey. Okay, yeah, let's see. And let's see. So, man, let's see. Darren says, please stop virtue signaling. I don't even know what you're talking about. Thomas, I said to Cinnabon, my base was not done. Then Deej gets mad that it had a hole. Okay. Yeah, Bird was a good guy. He was a good friend. And, he was a bright spot to a lot of people and a genuine inspiration to a lot of people because, he was he was dealing with an illness that even the doctors didn't quite understand. And he was in a lot of pain, and most people wouldn't even know it. You might know he's in a hospital bed, but you wouldn't know that he was in as much pain as he was. Let's see, skipping past the stuff about the Cinnabon stuff. I saw the movie Tully, where a woman who has her third child gets a night nanny, and it gets weird from there, and it gets dark. Okay. Never heard of it. Traveler says, Kermit, you like weird things. That is very true. And Ross and I says, Andy Trekker gave me my sanity back some years ago. I'm so upset about Bird of Prey 5. I know. Let's see. Something's repaired and upgraded, which has Thomas happy, because I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I know what happens. I know what happens. I'm trying not to spoil it. No problem. The problem is that with that forced diversity, the tropes have been established by bad quality products. Well, yeah, but the thing is, and this is what really drives me crazy about this. Okay, is that we say, we give lip service to the idea, like I said, that we care about good storytelling. It's not about the superficial stuff like the gender or the race of the characters, and then usually people go to the same two classic films, Terminator and Aliens, because both of them strong female lead, both of them very well loved among most nerds, and so they say, look at these great, awesome, classic movies that we all love. And so, how dare you say, hey, get out. How dare you say that we're a bunch of misogynists when clearly we like movies that have strong female leads? But the problem comes up in that, honestly, if those movies didn't exist, right, then, and they were about to come out now, as soon as somebody found out about the Terminator film, like if they got a plot summary, because the stuff is always leaked and stuff, so they find out, it's all about this woman who is the mother of the future, and the only guys in it are just there to either kill her or die to defend her. And, they could say all this, this is just going to be another woke movie. It's going to suck. And so they start talking about it before it even comes out. And that's what they've been doing nonstop since 2016, since Ghostbusters came out. And sure, in a lot of cases, there have been some terrible productions that have come out from the woke culture, if you want to call it, of movie producers. However, there's also been some stuff that's been pretty darn good that everybody just insists is bad because it was produced by the same woke culture that these people are complaining about. And so and that's why I say, you know what? How about instead of judging a series, a movie, or whatever based on its casting choices, we base it on the stories that they're telling, regardless of genre and stuff. So if it's a horror movie, is it a good horror movie? If it's a sci-fi, is it good sci-fi? Not, oh, well, of course they got a woman in the lead. Sure, it's obvious and apparent that Hollywood is shying away from putting white male leads in their projects right now. However, it was also equally obvious and apparent that Hollywood was almost exclusively putting white male leads in their shows and series for decades prior to that, and nobody was complaining about it. When a show was good, it was good. When it was bad, it was bad. And so, I think we just need to get back to the mentality as people that critique this stuff and consume this stuff. We should have a mentality more like we had 10, 15, 20 years ago when we judged it based on its content rather than on yes, to bring. Rather than the demographics of its cast. And the salty trekker will drive you crazy, of course. We carry the memories of Bird with us. Okay, we got to stop talking about Bird. I don't want to get depressed talking about Bird, okay? Please. I can tell you how it ends if you want me to. Not particular, Kermit. It doesn't sound like the kind of movie that I would be particularly interested in. I was never notified about his streams for a very long time. That is weird. Go look at hit the subscribe and check the bell icon and stuff. And definitely do that for the Nerd Fights, because I think you'll like the Nerd Fight streams, Ross and Nadi. So, I highly recommend it. Somehow YouTube showed me this just now after watching It's a Gundam stream, and now I find out the name. The name is different, and Bird of Prey 5 is passed. Yes. Been a lot going on. I know that you're trying to make a point, but I don't think it's Brie Larson that they talk about for the most part. Well, it depends on the project. They talked about Brie Larson forever and a day when Captain Marvel was being marketed. The names that most consistently come up are names like Kathleen Kennedy, because she runs Lucasfilm. Or that Disney is somehow trying to ruin everything. The conspiracy is whatever company is big, bad, and evil. But whatever. The companies are they're trying to make money. And they're stumbling right now. And you know what? It's because studio execs don't know the first thing about what people actually want. And so when they try to find out, well, they get flawed information. And I've talked about that ad nauseum in the past. There's a very good reason why they tend to lean to the left. And it has nothing to do with the actual attitudes of the studio execs. Salty, Anti-Trekker, why do you keep changing your names? Well, funny you should ask. So I changed it from Anti-Trekker to Salty Trekker at the request of many people, including, Captain Foley from Trek Yards and others who kept saying that Anti-Trekker was too negative, that it gives the impression that I dislike Star Trek because I'm an anti-Trekker. So even though I thought the name was clever, in that when I first came up with the idea of anti-Trekker, it was that I'm a Trekkie, not a Trekker. That's why I call myself the anti-Trekker. But I get it. So a lot of people misunderstood that. So I begrudgingly, after a few years, changed it to Salty Trekker. The reason I changed it to Exposed now is because me and Mr. Know-It-All kind of partnering up, and we're doing a whole rebranding thing. So we're separating out the content into 3 distinct categories. The Nerd Fights is where we actually engage and discuss nerdy topics. Salty Plus is exclusively my content, but it's going to, like I said, probably start focusing in more on 3D printing, but may do some nerdy content as well. And Exposed is supposed to be more deep dive conversation on religion and politics. And so that way, if one interests you but the others do not, you can subscribe to one and not the others, or you could subscribe to all three and just ignore when something comes up on the other channels. Not that subscriptions mean all that much anymore, except for qualifying you to monetize. That's about the only benefit to having subscribers, because it's the almighty algorithm that powers everything, at least until the Supreme Court destroys the ability for companies to use algorithms, which I genuinely hope they do. Indy Tiger, my favorite tiger that's not on a cereal box, says Merry Christmas to all. How you doing, Indy? Hope you are well, buddy. Rosinati says, I'll be sure to tune in then. I really missed you. Thank goodness your Borg series is back. My favorite series on YouTube ever made. I want to do more on the Borg, especially now that I am one. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to do something on that. And Thomas puts a link to the Nerd Fighting channel. Thank you. I'm not sure exactly what that is as far as video. Is it this one? I don't know. And Ross only says sub to all, and thank you to Thomas. You're becoming LDG with 50 YouTube channels. No, Thomas, I don't plan on going more than 3 because I can barely keep track of 3. Speaking of 3D printing, did you ever get Nomad finished? No. And that's one of the projects that I'm going to start on the Salty Plus channel probably around the beginning of the year. And so what happened is obviously, and because I was also supposed to print something for you specifically, Indy, that I haven't done yet, and I still am going to. Trust me, that's still going to happen. It's just it hasn't, and so let me kind of explain a little bit about the 3D printing drama. A couple of years ago, obviously, most of you know, I was diagnosed with MS, which explained a lot about my chronic pain. And I was getting significantly worse as far as being able to sit up, stand up, use my hands for fine motor skills, stuff like that. And it was getting pretty bad, to be honest, and worse than I kind of let on. And I was unable to actually operate and maintain the 3D printers. Actually, starting a print is easy. However, that's just a couple of keyboard clicks and transfer something to a USB drive and then plug the USB drive into the printer and hit start. However, there's also you have to remove the prints from the printer itself, which takes a little bit of dexterity. You have to be able to clean up the prints, removing support structures. If it's a plastic print, you need to sand it. If it's a resin print, you need to cure it. And so there's all this stuff that's involved that I just couldn't do. And you also need to do regular maintenance, especially on the lower end, more cost-effective printers. They require a lot of maintenance and stuff that, parts you have to replace and check regularly and stuff. And so I wasn't able to do much for quite a while. So then a couple of weeks ago, I decided, you know what, I really, I'm feeling a whole lot better. The drugs that I'm taking now are helping a lot. The neurostimulator is helping immensely. So I want to try to get back into this. And so the printer has been just sitting in the corner collecting dust. So I put it on my desk and fired it up. And almost immediately it overheated and shut itself down. And so I called up the company that manufactured the printer, and they said, what's going on? I explained it to them. They said, okay, it's I can't remember, some thermal part. They said it's a relatively common issue, and that they would be willing to send me a replacement part since I've been such a great customer for them. I bought several printers from this company in the past. And so I haven't gotten the parts yet. I'm still waiting for that. But then in the meantime, I did, I saved up a little bit of money, not a whole lot, but like $100 and some odd dollars, and took advantage of a Black Friday sale and ordered a new, albeit smaller printer to use in case I can't get the parts installed in my existing printer. The thing that would suck is my existing printer is a really large format printer. The new printer is roughly half the size of my my current one. So that new printer is supposed to come probably around the end of this week. And so what I'm going to do, and I've been trying to work on when I have a little bit of time here and there, is I'm trying to get things organized here so that I can set up a space that I can record like a proper review of the 3D printer and do a proper unboxing and review of this particular printer that I'm getting, because I've never used this particular model of printer before, and just kind of give my first impressions. And then that'll be one of the first channels that I post, or first new videos that I post on the Salty Plus channel. And then if that goes well, then I plan on doing more. And so then as time goes on, if I can make some money, get more printers, get another large form factor printer, and then and basically go through the whole process of designing and building Nomad. I still have a couple of problems with Nomad. I have most of the 3D model done, although I'm kind of rebuilding it from scratch just to make sure that I have the dimensions for everything right. Which I'm pretty happy with the model itself. But I still, since Life with Matthew, wasn't able to complete his end of the Project Nomad project, I don't have any way to put the electronics in it that I wanted to do. And so, unfortunately, it will not be a blinking, talking Nomad like I originally wanted. It'll just be a life-size replica of Nomad. If I can get that printer to work, it'll be like a half-size replica of Nomad if I can't do it on that printer. But we'll see. Odd Librarian out. Hey, by the way, Odd Librarian out. I meant to text you and I forgot because brain problems. The meeting that we go to, we're on hiatus right now for the holidays, and we are going to pick up the week after the new year. And so, if you're available at that point, that's when we're going to pick back up, and hope to see you then. But Odd Librarian Out says, my big problem with most modern female characters is they are cool by behaving like traditional men. Femininity is seen as a weakness, not a different skill set. I agree completely, and that's why I say write a story and then cast appropriately. If the main character is supposed to be a strong, stoic, masculine type of character, then it makes more sense to put a man in that role. If the person's primary attribute is compassion or a nurturing kind of spirit, or someone who is protective, then you can look at casting a woman in that role. And, those are different, totally different, skill sets, like you suggest. It's not that one is good and one is bad. And that is a big problem, is because, if you look at, and one of the reasons that Alien and Terminator works is that both Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor were driven by maternal instincts. And that's one of the reasons that those two movies work so well. And it's also, like when you look at characters like Michael Burnham and why she stumbles, it's because they're basically trying to make Michael Burnham like a dude that just happens to be a woman. And unfortunately but to even suggest that nowadays is considered a cardinal sin, because nowadays with gender politics the way they are, is people believe that they're whatever gender that they imagine that they are at that given moment. And some people genuinely believe that their gender changes from minute to minute throughout the day. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. It is, it's a part of your biology. I heard one person explain it this way. I think it was Richard Dawkins, which is kind of funny that, considering everybody, he's so leftist in most things, but in this, he definitely has a problem with this whole gender movement thing. As he said, what happens if there was a mass grave full of transsexual women that was dug up in 1,000 years? They would find a bunch of male skeletons. So, Lancer says hi. How you doing? Traveler says, what makes channels like this one and Bird of Prey is the community of friends of Bill's. I agree. And I really appreciate you guys for that. And so hopefully as we kind of try to diversify and specialize on these 3 different platforms, the community will grow. But I do want to keep it a community. Arabic says, Jolan True, welcome. Salty, can you name a well-made, written movie with a strong flame, you mean female, lead from the last 10 or so years? A well-made / written, I assume you mean with, within the last 10 years. I'd have to stop and think, because I know that I always end up, like going through, the whole history of movies that I've watched and try to think of, oh, well, let's see, how about, this movie or that movie, and, I might forget something. So let's see. Oh, come on. You're only going to show me the last few? Oh, you suck. Let's see. Transaction details. Yeah, okay. So give me all the transaction details. I don't... I'm coming. Oh, okay. So let me look at... Okay, let's go... Bear with me, because I'm sure there's something that's going to... I would say Heretic borders on that, although Heretic has a little bit of clunky writing, but did have a strong female lead that I enjoyed. Let's see. Smile 2 I actually enjoyed quite a bit. Let's see, which, I don't even remember what that one was. Oh yeah, that one was horrible. No, definitely not. Alien Romulus was okay. Maxine was that was a very interesting film. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's a perfect example, and this was from May of this year. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Not Mad Max Fury Road. I thought that movie was crap, and even though I know that most people like that one. Furiosa, I actually really enjoyed. Let's see. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I really enjoyed. Strong female lead. Let's see. Hey, does the 45th anniversary re-release of Alien count? Let's see. The 2 new Ghostbusters films technically have a female lead. So there's a few for you. I mean, I'm not saying they're the best movies ever made, but they're decent. They're well made, Decently written movies with strong female leads. Brie Larson plays people. That is true. Can we talk about my favorite actress, Tracy Lords? Well, I've only seen her in Blade, so I don't know much about her except that, she squeezed that one dude's crotch and then killed him. Or no, she tried to kill him, but Blade killed her. Aravic says, I always thought the difference between Trekkie and Trekker had to do with TOS versus TNG. In the early days, it kind of did. And that's one of the reasons that I went with that. Because back in the 70s, we very proudly called ourselves Trekkies. But then Gene Roddenberry decided that the proper name was Trekker. And the TNG people were all, adopting the moniker of Trekker. But us old folks were still going with Trekkie. So, yeah. Watch, which channel will have the Rings of Power Season 2 reviews? Probably the Nerd Fights channel. What happened to Mr. Know-It-All? He just had some family stuff that he had to take care of, so he'll be back next week. And Eric says, you're one to talk, the traveler formerly known as Wesley Crusher. That's true. Matthew will finish Nomad in a few decades. Probably, yes. I think that what'll happen is Matthew will bring all the electronic parts needed for Nomad to my funeral. Religion and politics. This channel is going to get fiery. It has a few times already. Do you have one of those 3D printers that will print metal? No. Those are industrial grade printers that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Tell me about it. I'm still waiting for my 3D printed Tin Man. Traveler says, Salty going to attempt a 3D print set of Mandalorian armor cosplay this year. I could, let's see. Going to attempt to print a 3D print a set of Mandalorian cosplay armor. I could post pictures as it comes along. Awesome. What kind of printer are you going to use? Or have you picked one yet? I still owe you a CAD drawing for the redesign of the Fat One, a.k.a. the ED, a.k.a. the Galaxy class. I think the ED. Oh, goodness. And Ross and Nutty, I am so sorry I didn't see this. I don't know why it didn't pop up. Oh, because I'm not in the usual spot that I'm normally streaming from. So thank you so much. Puts in a $10 super chat, says 3D printer money. Awesome, dude. I truly, truly appreciate it, buddy. Wait, Life with Matthew let you down? He lied? Yes. He didn't lie. What happened was Life with Matthew had a change of life scenario where he was offered a youth pastoral position that he couldn't say no to, but it took away most of his spare time. Even Gary, the former comic book shop owner, he did some videos about Bible stuff and history stuff on his channel, and most of it's wrong. Really? He did stuff on the Bible and history? I never saw any of that. I think my problem with Michael Burnham is they saw the need to connect her to the already existing main character, but also one of the first characters in Trek. Well, her lineage is Spock, though, with Spock. While, yes, a contrivance to be sure, did give us what I think is a good thing, and that is Strange New Worlds. Because we never would have gotten Strange New Worlds if it wasn't for the fact that she's Spock's adopted sister. Wonder Woman immediately springs to mind for a strong female. Yeah, that's true. The first Wonder Woman movie was a good female-led film. Granted, I did like it better when it starred Chris Evans. Never heard of either of those movies, says Thomas. Not sure either which, because it's so long ago that I said it. If it takes him 5 minutes to name one, then it's far too few. Not necessarily, because you know what? I don't go out of my way looking for female-led films to watch. There are some people that do. I don't, And since I'm mostly into superhero and sci-fi movies, they tend to lean more male than female, even now. Somebody like George Clooney, he could have spent the rest of his life not working because his aunt was Rosemary Clooney. I don't know who Rosemary Clooney is. Babies finally sleep. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Take care. JK, just kidding. I don't want a Tin Man. It looks like a turd ship. It does look like a turd ship. So my friend has set his garage as a cosplay workshop. Shop. He owns a few large 3D printers. Do you know what kind of printers specifically they are, like make and model? I'm just curious. My first printer was a CR10, which anybody that's been into 3D printing for more than a year or two, most of them, their first printer was a CR10. And I've had a couple of Ender 3s. I had a CR10 Max, which was an absolute piece of crap. And my last printer was an Ender 5 Plus. And I absolutely love that printer, but that's the one that's having the thermal issue right now. The thing about the Ender 5 is that it's a big enough build volume to where you could build a piece of chest armor on it and print it as one piece. So that's a pretty big printer. Well, Matthew did start Babylon 5 like he said 4 years ago. Yeah. So you finally watched Rings of Power Season 2? What did you think? No, I haven't watched it yet, but that's where the review will go. Honestly, I've had so much on my plate as far as stuff to watch with just trying to keep up with Mr. Know-It-All for the shows. Because right now, there's Dune, Lower Decks, and Skeleton Crew all are in release right now. And all worthy of talking about for sure. And unfortunately, Mr. Know-It-All isn't here to talk about them because he's just a mean old jerk. Wow, I actually caught up in the chat. Can you believe it? Yeah, I like how nicely the the little salty guy works there. I wish I was a really skilled 3D sculptor, because that's what it takes to bring out the detail in a face to make it recognizable, so that I could make that into a model myself. But I just don't have that kind of skill. And Eric says that unfortunately he will never watch. Oh no, he probably will eventually. I'm gonna keep working on it. I mean, hey, he's finally watching, Enterprise season 3. Granted, after we watched like 3 episodes, then he had these problems come up. So hopefully he'll get some more in before the end of the year. Did you like last week's Lower Decks? Some of it I felt was odd. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't think it was their best episode, but I didn't think it was bad. I would say it was an average Lower Decks episode. So I laughed, but I didn't laugh hysterically. However, this coming week is the penultimate episode, so they're going to have to set up for whatever they're going to do with all these random anomalies. My friend is a smartass. He replied with, what model of car? Yeah, your friend is definitely a smartass. Oh, what model of car? Because I'm sure he knows. Most of my printers, and I know a lot of people consider these like the Walmart of 3D printers, but most of my printers have been Creality printers, as far as FDM printers. That's the plastic squirting printers, and then I have 3 resin printers that I've owned: a Mars Pro, which are I can never pronounce the name right. Igalu, however you say their name, and then a Piopoli Phenom, which I loved, but that printer is a pain to work with. Best episode so far was Starbase 80. I agree. It might be easier for you to just watch season 2. I know it would be easier, but, you know. Andy Tiger says, don't spoil Lower Decks for me. I'm behind on watching. All right, I will not tell you about when Boimler gets the sex change operation. Now, watch they actually do something like that in the next episode. That would be hilarious. I do know that he printed helmets for Rohan warriors from Lord of the Rings. So there's different classes of build volume. Like your standard FDM printers are like the Ender 3, which is a little on the small side. You would have a difficult time printing a Rohan warrior in one piece of the helmet. But you could definitely do it in probably 3 pieces. Let's see. Everybody's saying hi to Thomas. Guy in our office at work has an Ender 5 Pro. Yeah, an Ender 5 Pro is almost identical to my Ender 5 except smaller. The smaller the Ender, so the Ender build plate is about the size of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, except square it. Like if it's 8.5 by 8.5, that's about the size of how big an Ender 5 can print. Compared to like a CR10 would be like if you did the 11 by 11, right? So that's a CR10. When you get a resin 3D printers, they start much, much smaller. So like this, it's kind of funny. I just happen to have this here. This is an old build plate that fits an Elegoo Saturn, which is actually a fairly, it's a medium-sized resin 3D printer. And this is the size of the printer that I ordered. That's why I have these here, is for the printer that I'm waiting for. So it's a bit smaller than the larger format printers. But the quality you get on a resin printer is, dozens of times better than what you get off of an FDM printer. The problem, though, is that resin prints tend to be a little more fragile. They are, resin itself, once it's fully cured, is a little brittle, and so if you drop it, it'll break. And they also, they're a hassle to work with the prints after the printer is done, because they're covered in wet resin. You can't touch wet resin, it's toxic. So you have to put on nitrate gloves to remove it from the printer. And then you have to go through this whole thing where you have to wash it in isopropyl alcohol, which means you got to put like a respirator on while you're doing that part, or because you don't want to breathe in those fumes. And then you have to put it under a UV light to cure what's left on the outside, so that the surface of the model is no longer toxic. And so it's a major hassle to work with the prints, but man, they look beautiful. Like if you wanted to make Warhammer 30K or 40K, Warhammer 40K figurines that look as good as the ones you buy, you can do that on a resin printer. You can't do that on an FDM printer. The FDM printers just don't have the ability to print that fine a detail. And you can make money doing that if you can 3D model those things. Fart Cheese Breer Hall says, spoiler, Mariner has sex with that purple-haired dude in the shower. I missed that one. Driver says, yes, in one piece, except for the points. Yeah, that was probably about the size of a CR10, maybe a little bit bigger. Has the Phantom Menace complained about the new Lord of the Rings movie? The focus is on a female character who is barely mentioned in the books. I haven't heard much from them, but honestly, I've been ignoring them for the most part. Some Phantom Menace people, I think, have completely destroyed their own credibility. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but I think I'm looking at you, Critical Drinker. when he released that proof of concept he made, where he was trying to show what an awesome movie maker he was compared to all the woke people that he likes to criticize. Not to mention the fact that he gave a good review to movies like Wicked, suggesting that Wicked was, was not preachy. Really? I mean, really? Wicked. The movie about how the green person is discriminated against for being green, and by the way, she's the only one that cares about the rights of animals, and and everybody in Oz is gay. That movie, that he thought was good. And if you think I'm exaggerating, go see the movie. I mean, the movie is like, for a song and dance movie, the numbers are great and all that, which I agree with him on that as far as if you like musical theater, the actual musical theater part of it is good. But the story is atrocious, not to mention the fact that it craps all over the lore of The Wizard of Oz. And we also find out that when Dorothy dropped the house in Oz, she dropped it on a girl in a wheelchair. And then all the Munchkins celebrated. Oh, and by the way, the Munchkins are all normal-sized people now. Because I guess it would be, wrong to portray them as little people. Maybe Peter Dinklage was on the production team. Let's see. I know it has smaller resin printer as well. Well, most resin printers are small. The Peopoly is the only company I know that makes really big resin printers. Indy's taking off. Have a good one, buddy. How did your co-host get hit by lightning? Storm got him. That movie was a snooze fest. You talking about Wicked? Or are you talking about Critical Drinker's movie? Yeah, it was so, generic. To call his thing a generic war thriller is an insult to all things generic. Did the studio pay Critical Drinker for that Paw review of Wicked? I don't know. I was shocked. When I saw his review of Wicked, I was expecting him to lambaste it like he usually does with that kind of stuff. And when he actually said it was good, and especially when he said it wasn't preachy, I'm like, okay, so Critical Drinker has no integrity whatsoever. I thought Oz is just a delusion of Dorothy, so where are all these movies coming from? Well, it's not a delusion of Dorothy. It's everybody thought it was a delusion of Dorothy. Wait, I thought Wicked and Wizard of Oz was about going off the gold standard. Fake well. Yeah, I think you missed it there. So now Dorothy is evil and the witch just got misunderstood. Boo-hoo. Yeah. And Critical Drinker liked it. Not only is Dorothy evil, Glinda, the Witch of the North, is straight up evil. Now, the wizard, I would say, always had kind of I wouldn't say evil, but he was a con artist, right? He was a person who was just trying to scam people to get ahead. Oh goodness. The story in Wicked, and it's only the first half. We got to wait for Wicked Part 2. I don't know when that's coming out. I'm assuming next year, but I haven't heard. And the funny thing is that Wicked Part 1 is longer than the entire stage play of Wicked. They've added so much bloat and preachiness to it that they've more than doubled the runtime just to do. It's longer than the play, and it's only the first half. Because apparently, and I didn't know this because I've never seen the stage play, but Critical Drinker has, he said that the movie ends right where intermission happens in the play. And So that means that 1 and 2 together is probably going to be more than double the length of the play because of all the extra bloat. And yeah, but it's not preachy. And by the way, this from the same guy that railed on The Hobbit because they bloated it. And by the way, he even mentions The Hobbit in his Wicked review. And he's like, well, yeah, I said that about The Hobbit too, but, this is good. Whatever. Thomas wants to know, I ever see Honest Trailers Wizard of Oz one is funny. I have seen Honest Trailers many a time. I don't remember seeing the Wizard of Oz one specifically. Although I have seen theory videos about how Glinda is the real evil character in the Wizard of Oz because of the fact that, she manipulates Dorothy into dropping the house on the Witch of the East. She sets the whole thing up because Dorothy could have just gone home immediately as soon as she got the ruby slippers, but instead makes her go to Oz and tricks Oz into sending her on the quest to kill the Witch of the West. Then Oz and Dorothy leave together on the balloon, and Oz accidentally leaves by himself on the balloon, and then Dorothy uses the magic slippers to get home, leaving Glinda in full control of Oz. I bet the actual musical on stage was better. I'm sure it is. I wouldn't be surprised if it had some of the preachy elements to it. Like, I know the animal rights thing is in the stage play version. Just talking to people that have seen it, but that is a major theme in the play. It's. I just can't believe. Like I said, is it a horribly produced film? Not at all. It's beautiful to look at. The song and dance numbers are great. By the way, Ariana Grande is absolutely awesome as Glinda. She made me laugh more than once with her take on the character of Glinda. But the preachiness of the movie is palpable. You know what I'm saying. I can't talk anymore. Maybe I'm thinking about the book Silver Sleeper, Walking on Gold Road Town, where everything is green, but only because you're forced to wear green tinted glasses, the wizard is a lie. Okay. Phantom S said Rings of Power made Sauron a misunderstood villain. Guess they skipped to the final episode. They must have, because they know, because they got inside information. I don't know if you heard this, Thomas, but apparently, don't tell anyone, Kathleen Kennedy is getting fired. I heard that from Doomcock, like 6 years ago. All right, so I think I am going to wrap it up, guys, because I am I need to get some rest. And I'm sorry about not being able to do nerd fights this week. If I'm able, because I've been feeling under the weather this week as well, so it took all the energy I had just to do what I did here. But if I'm able on Saturday, I'll do another nerd fights type of stream like this one, because Mr. Know-It-All won't be back until next week. And yes, Travel. No, it's not the 5th time. This is like the 41st time, I think. But remember, you are the salt of the earth, and I am the salty trekker, or just salty, or Michael, or whatever.